let's start with the fighter jets. According to a panel of experts in a report to the United Nations Security Council circulated on Friday, Africa became the region's hardest hit by terrorism in the first half of the year 2021, as the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda extremist groups and their affiliates spread their influence, especially in parts of West Africa like Nigeria. The United Nations experts are concerned that these extremist groups are boasting gains in supporters and territory and inflicting the greatest casualties, while growing capabilities in fundraising and weapons, including the use of drones. These insights came a day after the Nigerian Air Force received a boost with the arrival of 6 A-29 Super Tucano aircraft from the United States, 4 years after the country agreed to send Nigeria the light attack aircraft to fight insurgents. The United States, under President Donald Trump, agreed to sell the planes to Nigeria in 2017 after a frozen deal by the Barack Obama administration following the Nigerian Air Force's refugee camp bomb incident. The 6 planes are the first half of an order of 12, which arrived in the northern city of Kano on Thursday. What does this new set of machinery mean for Nigeria's fight against insurgency, and is the arrival a drop in the mighty ocean? Joining us today to discuss this is a retired senior officer of the Nigerian Air Force and a private security and defense consultant, Group Captain Sadeeq Garba Shehu. Group Captain Shehu, good to have you on this day live.
Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you very much for joining us. Well, you listened to my introduction. Well, there was a Lee report about human rights abuses in Nigeria under President Goodluck Jonathan. And on the basis of that, the Obama administration refused to provide hardware, software support for Nigeria. But under President Trump, we had a change of mind. And in 2018, there was an agreement signed between the Nigerian government, the Buhari administration, and the Trump administration to provide 12 Tucano aircraft, light aircraft, to support the fight in Nigeria. Now, what exactly happened? Is it that between the Jonathan administration and the Buhari administration, there were no more concerns about human rights abuses in Nigeria? How significant is that shift in terms of the attitude of the United States government to the Nigerian government with regard to the global fight against terrorism?
Well, thank you very much. It's good to set the background of how Nigeria, it was a long journey getting this aircraft. Actually started in 2015 under the Jonathan administration. However, as of that time, now when I said what the United States government thinks is not necessarily is the truth, it's a perception. And unfortunately, governments, take their decision based on that perception. As of the time when Nigeria realized that it needed a specialist aircraft, and the Tucano was among the best in the market, though it also made, for race to get some other aircraft that was not successful. The story that time was that the Nigerian defense sector is full of corruption, and there were fears that the aircraft will be used to abuse human rights. As far as the United States government, that was the issue as of then. So they refused to sell the aircraft to Nigeria. Even other attempts to get the aircraft from the Brazilian, who are the original designers of this aircraft, was similarly blocked. We also remember the attempt to buy helicopters from third buyers through South Africa, where our money was frozen. So that was the story. As far as, but then it is only fair to understand that much as I hear people saying President Obama didn't sell, the reality is that the American system has its way. The president may be willing to sell an aircraft, but by the U.S. democratic system, the Senate, most especially the Armed Services Committee, have to approve any sales that will be done. under the Leahy law and everything. So my understanding was that as of 2017, actually, with the arrival of Buhari administration, again, the advisors of the United States government on African affairs convinced the government that the issue of corruption may not be, on the high as of that time with the new regime coming. So that softened the stance as far as the president was concerned. Obama actually wanted to sell those aircrafts in 2017. However, just as of the time he was about to sign for that aircraft, we had that unfortunate incident of Iran IDP bombing in January 2017 and 200. And of course, in the Senate, there were powerful senators like the famous Senator Leahy, who all along were against the sale of this aircraft. So that incident brought them back, and Obama had no option than to pipe down on selling of those aircraft. Then enter Trump administration. Trump came, his own was America first. He was looking for anything that will boost American economy, that will bring jobs. That is to him, that was the most important as far as the sale of the Tucano was. He was able to get the buy-in of the Senate, albeit with some conditions attached to the sales of the aircraft, and the aircraft went ahead. So you can see it was something that started with the Jonathan administration, and then we're seeing the culmination now with this. As somebody who studies the issue, when you hear the debate that is going, and even the agreement on how to sell this aircraft, the reality is that there are still those concerns within either the American presidential circle or within the Congress. There were still people who didn't feel happy with the going of the sales. But we should thank our stars that we got the aircraft.
Well, but Group Captain Sadeeq Garba, Shehu, how would these Tucano jets, how would they change the game? Because what Nigerians want is a situation whereby the conflict with the bandits and the terrorists will be to the advantage of Nigeria. So we have these Tucano jets now. 6 of them have been, provided. But how would they change the game, considering the fact that in February, in April, in May, we witnessed scenarios of bandits shooting down Nigerian Air Force aircraft. So what is special about Tucano aircraft that will change the game in the favor of the war against banditry and terrorism in Nigeria?
Well, in military aviation, there are different kinds of aircraft, and each aircraft has its specific role. Ideally, I said ideally, because it's a function of if a country has enough money to buy certain aircraft for a certain role. You have fighters, you have a ground attack aircraft, you have air superiority that go in the air, one aircraft going versus another for air-to-air combat. You have transport, you have search and rescue, and so many and so many and so forth. Now, a country like the United States, or maybe the UK, or any of the countries, or Germany or France, who have the financial means, who have the technological means, they can afford to buy specific aircraft for specific type of mission for their armed forces. However, air forces in Africa or in third world countries like Nigeria, they have to make do with what they have. I always give the analogy of a woman that is fortunate enough to have a rich husband. When you go to her kitchen, you will see a set of knives. There's the one for boning, there's the one for filleting, there's the one for carving, and so on and so forth. However, another woman that is not so well endowed, she has only one knife with which to use for all the tasks. That is the situation of the Nigerian armed forces. When the insurgency started, most of our equipment, and it's not only Nigeria, insurgency is, at least in the form it is, it's a comparatively recent phenomenon. Initially, countries used to buy weapons to help them fight other countries. So what they have were conventional weapons. Their training was conventional. Their armaments were conventional. However, with the coming of counterinsurgency, banditry, all which you can subsume of the irregular warfare, non-state actors, it's not a country fighting another country. It soon became to realize that this kind of opponent you have is not one defined country that will go and say, let's go and destroy that country. It is not an organized army that will say, let's capture their headquarters. Instead, you are facing people that are dispersed mostly inside other innocent civilians. So the weapons you have are not likely to be effective. And so military thinkers started thinking that for this kind of fight, we need different kind of weapons that will target the people we are looking for. That is how the search for what is called a counter-insurgency aircraft started. A counter-insurgency aircraft is an aircraft that is dedicated to fight counter-insurgents or bandits or any kind of irregular warfare where it is not a massed professional army representing a country that you are going to move. The search started in the United States. Mostly, sometimes military revolutions start in the United States because of their reach, because of their technology. In 2009, seeing that they are going to be fighting more against these irregular threats, they started a search for an aircraft. Before then, the major fighters for the United States Air Force were the F-15, F-16, the A-10. But these are jet aircraft. Jet aircraft by design, they are very expensive to maintain. They are very expensive to run. They fly too high. They fly too fast. They are not configured for the kind of threat you meet, whether it is bandit, whether it is Boko Haram. So they set out a competition. Being an arms manufacturing country, they invited arms manufacturers. Give us an aircraft that will suit counter-insurgency. And of course, they set some parameters. Some of the parameters I may not mention all, but they want an aircraft that can operate even from a rough terrain, from deck. It doesn't have to be a clean, long airport. They want an aircraft that has long endurance. Endurance, that is the amount of time that an aircraft can stay in the air after taking fuel once without air-to-air refueling. They want an aircraft that has range. Range, that is the maximum distance that the aircraft can cover, so that it doesn't have to be based where the war is happening. It can be based outside, and then it can move in, do what it has to do, and go back, so that it cannot be attacked. They also want an aircraft that can fly low and relatively slow. No aircraft is slow, but even within you can have the one that moves at twice the speed of light. Then you could have another one like the Tucano that can move slowly at 167 or something kilometers per hour. So they wanted an aircraft that is relatively slow, that can fly relatively high, relatively low. The advantage of flying low and slow is that such an aircraft can be able, the pilot, because it's not too fast, will be able to positively identify targets that are normally embedded inside civilians. Because without that, if you fly too high and too low, and we have seen it in Iran, the likelihood of you hitting the person you don't want to hit is always there. So they want that. And now, since they want an aircraft, and it's only jet aircraft normally, by design, they are most efficient at very high altitude, above 10,000 feet, and also they fly very fast. So all the jet aircraft that you have are not going to do the work. You have to look for a turboprop engine. Turboprop engine aircraft is very efficient at low speeds, at low altitude. So they want an aircraft with, with that kind of engine. They also want an aircraft, since you are going to fly low and slow, it means somebody with a catapult, somebody with AK-47 can get you. So they want an aircraft that will provide protection for the aircraft itself and the pilot. So they want an aircraft basically with armor in the cockpit that will cover the engine and the pilot. These are some of the criteria that the United States Air Force, and they called 7 different companies to compete to produce an aircraft that has these characteristics. Around 2011, 5 of the competitors were knocked out because they couldn't meet this criteria, and only 2 aircraft were retained. That is the 87 Beechcraft and then the Tucano. Eventually, the Tucano at the end of 2011 was declared the winner. So the point is that Tucano emerged from a competition that assembled not only American manufacturers but also some Italian manufacturers who competed. And it was adjudged under all the parameters that is wanted that this is the aircraft, the best that can give you what you want during a counter-insurgency. So the decision for Nigeria to go for that aircraft is a wise one, especially, again here I come with the analogy of the wife with one wife. Since the counter-insurgency started, the Nigerian Air Force did not have what you call a dedicated aircraft that can fight counter-insurgency.
Well, Group Captain,
the Nigerian Air Force was using what it has as opposed to what it needs. And what did it have? Alpha Jet, the Chinese F-7, to some extent, the L-39 were also touched up through some indigenous technology. It's not supposed to be an attack aircraft, but this was the aircraft they were using.
Well,
analogy with
Captain,
the woman with one knife.
Yes. Well,
yes.
I don't want to get into the controversy about one wife and many wives. That could cost me another controversy in the public space. But I'd like to draw your attention to one fact.
Yeah.
The fact that, look, these Tucano jets, 6 of them, arrived at a time when there was concern about how bandits, terrorists, had developed the capacity to pull down the aircraft of the Nigerian Air Force. It happened in February, it happened in April, it happened in May, it happened about 5 days ago, and Flight Lieutenant Abayomi Dairo was able to escape. Everybody has praised, everyone has praised him for his dexterity, for his creativity. What is the guarantee that these Tucano jets can rise above the technological achieved accomplishments of the terrorists who seem to be ahead of the Nigerian Air Force? Can anyone give us any assurance that the Nigerian Air Force has been able to move ahead of the terrorists in terms of air power?
Well, I would like to answer in the affirmative that the Air Force has found a solution that holds no risks. But the reality of warfare is that there is no solution that is not without risks. Remember, I was talking of an ideal counterinsurgency aircraft has to fly low and slow. That's what the Tucanos do. But the pilot, the protection of the pilot is also important, and it is taken in the design of the aircraft. The cockpit of the Tucano aircraft is covered by a Kevlar armor. It's covered a Kevlar armor, which gives protection at least against small arms and light weapons against the aircraft. Also, the aircraft is equipped with Martin Baker 00 ejection seat. In case the pilot has to get out, there is high probability that he will get out in one piece using the ejection seat. So the point I am making, if you are looking for an aircraft to fight counterinsurgency, you have to balance, between risk to the pilot and then risk to the civilians that are on the ground. You can fly very high and very fast to avoid the insurgents, but at the same time, the probability of you hitting innocent civilians is there because you are flying high, because you are not making positive identification. On the other hand, the lower you come, the slower you come, you are also susceptible to insurgents fire or bandits or whatever it is. So it is really, there is no risk-free solution. But what I am telling you is that in the designers of the Tucano, they made sure that at least the pilot has some protection. Another added protection that will come in, the weapons that the bandits are using, or the insurgents, at most is RPG-7. RPG-7, when you look at the range, this aircraft can stay away from a target. If it locks it, it can fire and get a target from 8 to 11 kilometers away.
Okay.
It is my belief neither Boko Haram nor the insurgents have anything close to that range.
Well, Group Captain, do we have trained pilots, either within the Air Force or within the military, to man these Tucano jets? Because, it's not enough to just get these fighter jets. Was the spokesperson of the Air Force, Air Commodore Capt, was saying, there are about 200, Nigerian fighter pilot jets who are, training in countries around the world. Yes, okay, maybe so. Do we have the capable officers who can man these fighter jets, and do we have the capability for maintenance? Because maintenance is also very important.
Thank you very much. Yes, whenever you talk of a machine, no matter how modern or how effective it is, there's also the human element. You have to have pilots, you have to have engineers, you have to have armament officers that can do the work to complement the quality of the Alpha jet. I don't have the exact figures, but I am aware, as is normal with purchase of aircraft, that this particular order by Nigeria, it included cost of training of pilots, engineers, technicians, armament officers. I think I don't have the actual figure, but I know about 60-something Air Force personnel comprising all these trades were sent to go on training. Secondly, when you have a pilot that is already trained, all you do when you bring a new aircraft is to type rate or to convert that aircraft, because the basic skills of the piloting are still the same. Like the Air Force spokesman said, we have pilots, but the pilots have to be converted on the new Tucano aircraft. That has been done. And the training was done by the United States instructor pilots. So I am sure rather, that they will not, ascertain any pilot as capable to fly their equipment if he has not gone through the rigors. However, again, part of the contract involves maintenance and spares for 3 years. I have it from my sources that each of the aircraft is also coming with spare engines, and so on and so forth. However, even after these 3 years, there is going to be the need for Nigerian Air Force personnel to be able to maintain this aircraft. In the past, true, as a country that is not well developed in technology, we have had issues of maintenance. So really, like you said, maintenance is very, very important. And this is my humble opinion. I think even the 60-something personnel that we trained is not enough. So I am hoping, as part of the deal, there will be more training for technicians, for avionics experts, for engine and airframe, for all sorts of ground equipment, that there will be continuous training to ensure that our training gets the best. In the past, Nigerian Air Force had made the mistake of buying aircraft and then saying they will do the local training here abroad. Honestly, sometimes we win ourselves too early, and then we have problems of supporting those aircraft. For us to get the best out of these Tucanos, we must make sure that we maintain this periodic training. The more a pilot flies, the more a technician tries his hands on the actual machine under normal operating conditions, the more proficient he becomes. So, but I have no doubt that the Air Force, given the training costs a lot of money, given the requirements and the resources to train, so that we would not localize everything, I think the Air Force have the people to train and maintain this aircraft so that we maintain them. There are examples. We bought the Alpha Jets in 1979. This is over 20 or 30 years. The aircraft, through ingenuity, are still trying to keep those aircraft afloat, even though they are no longer in production. Nobody was producing the Alpha Jet after 1992, I think. That was the last when it was produced. But our engineers, through innovation, sometimes with companies like Innoson, to fabricate parts, they have been able to. But training and retraining and retraining and retraining pilots, engineers is very important if we are going to recoup our investment on this Tucano aircraft.
Well, Group Captain, now you recall that in many parts of the country, of the world, the new strategy is to adopt the use of drones. Nigeria even said at a point that the Nigerian Air Force was collaborating with Turkey to deploy drones in order to minimize risks. We have seen the example of the Americans using drones, deploying thousands of drones in Afghanistan, for example. So why is Nigeria not thinking along those lines to minimize risks to military personnel? Because we seem to be focusing on hardware, get the hardware, put pilots up there, and then in April we lost men, in February we lost men, in May we even lost the Chief of Defense Staff. Chief of Army Staff, I mean.
Thank you very much. When you are looking for a solution in counterinsurgency, as far as air power is concerned, of course you have various solutions. You can use the fast jets we are using, which are not the ideal. You could use the slow-flying aircraft like the Tucanos that we destined. You could go for helicopters. You could also go for drones. I would not like to believe that nothing is being done about drone. However, it is my humble opinion that there are so many moving parts in the way Nigeria is pursuing its UAV or drone technology, with multiple services going different ways. We have to realize here the stakeholders, whether in the executive or in the legislative branch, they have to weigh in. We have to have a coordinated approach of how we can adopt the drone technology. There is no doubt drone and UAVs are being looking as futuristic. Some people even forecast that the days of the manned aircraft are over. But we are Africa. We are not a world technology. So even if that will happen, you can be sure that Africa will be at the last. But that does not stop us from engaging. What I see, like I said, is several moving parts, different services going different ways. So we're frittering away the resources we need to this thing. Even you call some aircraft, it is to my knowledge, some services go to, you said Turkey, some go to China, some go to Portugal. We are going to too many countries. I think there's no coordination in where we're adopting. I want to see the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force, you know, combining their effort and other, because drones also have a civilian application. I want to see Nigeria's research and development effort being put under one roof instead of us frittering away. Everybody is talking of drones. In fact, there are even some MDAs that are talking of drones. We do not have organized. As rich as America is, when the drone technology started getting matured, they selected one service and told them to coordinate all the efforts. This is US that even have the money, they have the technology, everything is being made in their country. We are pursuing this UAV, which is a reality in different aspects, by going to different countries. I think that is what we should do in order to ensure that we benefit from the drone. However, having said that, in selecting your solutions, drone has its advantages and disadvantages. Just like a manned aircraft has its own advantages and disadvantages. So, in the final analysis, we are not going to be a fully drone or UAV air force or armed forces. It's going to be a mix. Each threat, each challenge, there are aspects that you really need the human element, no matter how mature the technology is.
Okay, Group Captain, why are the Tucano jets arriving in batches? Nigeria paid about $469.4 million for the 12 Tucano jets. And that's much higher than what Pakistan paid for the same jets coming from the United States. So why do we have to incur more cost? And why is it that the jets are arriving in batches? Nigeria will say, well, since 2018, we paid up in full. So why is it that now we have to get the batches, the jets in batches? Is there something in the military practice that explains that?
Thank you very much, Mr. Abati. But first, please, with respect, permit me, I will be remiss if I do not correct you. The Tucano is not a jet aircraft, actually.
Okay,
like I said,
fighter jet. It's a fighter jet. Okay, it's a fighter jet.
It's not. When you say jet, you are talking about jet engine. It doesn't have a jet engine. It has a turboprop. But that is by the way.
Whatever.
Now, as to why Nigeria is getting the aircraft in batches. Now, there is nothing military about it, rather economics. To my understanding, you know, various sums are being attributed to the total package that Nigeria ordered. You have 500, you have 600, you have 300, depending on the mention. Now, in buying an aircraft, if country A buys its own at, let's say, 1 million, it doesn't necessarily mean that country B will buy its own at 1 million, even though it is the same aircraft by name. First, because each aircraft, even having the same name, the Tucano EMB is the brand name. But even within the Tucano, there are variants. And when countries want to buy, it's just like you going to buy a Mercedes. You want to say you want to buy a Mercedes 200. But some people, like we say in Nigeria, they will say, I want tapping glass. I want cruise control. So definitely there's a difference between one Mercedes 200 and another Mercedes 200. It's the same thing with the aircraft. So it is not enough to go on the internet and say Ghana or Pakistan bought their Tucano at this price, Nigeria bought its own at this price, Nigeria's one is higher. No, you have to know the total package. From what I know from my sources, the amount being quoted, it covers the cost of the aircraft themselves, the cost of 3 years maintenance and supply of spares, the cost of training, the cost of even ground equipment and structures. If you go to Kayenji now, there are a lot of hangars being built. There is an armory to keep all the various armaments that the aircraft is going to go in. And then when you go, you specialize. The advanced precision kill weapon system, for example, which gives the Tucano, you know, the capacity to fire from 8 kilometers away. It's not every country that will require that. So if a country is not requiring that, you do not expect their own Tucano to have the same price. And then, as in everything economics, there is economy of numbers. A country that is buying 20 will probably be higher than a country that's buying 35. Egypt, for example, they paid, I think they paid for about 55,000. If you calculate, you'll find that their own per head, it will become less. A country that already has hangars, has ground equipment, is not going to require that from the United States. But when the United States release their figure, they give a figure of the total package. So someone, you cannot just divide that 500 and something we buy by 12 and then arrive at a figure for Nigerian Tucano. That will be wrong, because there are so many hidden details we don't know. Now, again, as per have we paid, to my own investigation, I think we paid up to 90%. We didn't pay 100%. There is still some balance we need to pay. And sometimes this is pure economics. It's possible the Tucano manufacturers are holding until they get the rest of their money and then they release. But if I remember, actually, they even tried to supply us this aircraft. Initially, they were saying they are not going to supply until around 2023 or 2024. But the final agreement as far as this contract was that they will supply the last aircraft in 2024. The last aircraft. So from that now to 2024, we must see some streaming, but certainly the payment was not 100%, even though if it was 90-something%. But very important, like I said, in calculating what it cost, is not right to divide that $500 and something million by 12 and say this is what we bought our own. Different countries will buy different variants with different specifications and will pay different prices.
Okay, Group Captain, there's been a lot of excitement about this arrival of the 6 Tucano jets. Now, is that excitement justified? And are you optimistic that the Nigerian government will win the war, or is winning the war, or we should, as Nigerians, be prepared for a long, drawn-out war that will even be there beyond the Buhari administration? As a security person, what's your own assessment?
Okay, first, excitement about the Tucano. Countries or country leaders that know what they are doing, or who are very conscious of the economics of getting value for money, where they want to buy a military equipment, whether it is for army, for navy, or for air force, there are certain questions you ask. Because there are always vendors that will try to sell you what really you don't need just because they want to offload. You have to ask from the military, from independent experts, what do you need? What do you want to do? It's only by this analysis that will arrive. So the excitement about Tucano is based on several parameters. First, we want to use it for counterinsurgency. Has it performed in other counterinsurgencies? This is what national leaders should ask. And the answer is in the affirmative. The Tucano has been tested in countries that have insurgencies like us. In Colombia, in Philippines, in Afghanistan. And it has performed wonderfully. But of course, like I said, is the aircraft and the man. The combination of the aircraft and the man gave spectacular results. Second question you will ask, how many other air forces are using it? With due respect, most of us, when we're buying our new car, when we look for advice, they will say buy a Toyota. For the simple reason that many Nigerians are buying Toyota. Toyota spare parts are there. Your local village mechanic can repair Toyota. The same thing with the Tucano. Over 20 air forces currently they have purchased the aircraft, and there are about also 20 that have placed orders based on its performance. So if many air forces are buying Tucano or whatever military equipment, you can be sure whether you are in the executive branch or in the legislative branch that you are making a good buy. So the Tucano is also good in that discipline. Again, it has all the characteristics, like I said. It doesn't need a very long paved roadway to take off. It doesn't need to actually reach where the enemy is to release. It's actually that from 8 kilometers, it can release. Even the aircraft we had before, you have to manufacture liquid oxygen so that the pilot will take, when he's above 10,000 meters, he will use the oxygen. In the Tucano, the engine itself, as soon as you own the engine has a way of producing oxygen. So there are so many things that go for the Tucano as a country. So based on that, the excitement is justified. However, like I said, the human element and the machine element is what will give you the final product. The second part of your question, you asked about, sorry, I missed that.
Can we win this war with what we have?
Yes. Again, there is tendency to forget the definition of counterinsurgency. Counterinsurgency is defined by the Americans, who always define anything so that you don't get this in. as the sum of military, political, economic, developmental, police actions to fight insurgency. So what I am saying here, the military is only aspect. The military always gets, I don't know, a lot of, for the simple reason, even for development to move, for police to move, for politics and governance to move, you first have to secure a certain, level of stability. That's why sometimes always they talk about the military. But it's always good to remember the, the definition, the classic definition of counterinsurgency. So many, even including legal aspects, they are all embedded in counterinsurgency effort. Having said that, unfortunately, I would like to say that insurgency will finish next year or tomorrow or even yesterday. But the reality is that counterinsurgency, because it is a manifestation of so many things that are buried in governance, buried in culture, buried in history, unfortunately, counterinsurgency, wherever it is always a long, drawn-out battle. So, in as much as we should not be, looking for quick fixes, we need 10 years. We are hoping we'll not do another 10 years. We are hoping with the firepower that our armed forces are getting, they will be able to establish the peace or to force the insurgents to surrender, like we saw in Colombia. In Colombia is the firepower that actually brought. But of course, as you are doing the firepower, you are doing the governance part, you are doing the legal part, you are doing the developmental part. All have to come in. So we have to manage our expectations while hoping for the best. That's what I have to say.
Well, Group Captain, we've been talking about the Super Tucano jets, but I'm aware that Nigeria is also trying to get 3 J-17 fighter jets from Pakistan. What's the difference between the Tucano jets and the Super 3 J-17 jets that we're looking forward to from Pakistan? And have we made the payment for that?
Well, yes. As a security defense analyst, I like to speak frankly. And if you ask me, just like I'm excited about the Super Tucano based on what it has done, but it is proven and tested in battle, based on the number of air forces that are using it, based on its qualities, which has been seen, I have professed my excitement about getting the Tucano for the Nigerian Air Force. I wish I could say the same for the J-17. Unfortunately, that is not the case. The J-17 is not as tested as the aircraft, as the Tucano aircraft. The Jet-17 is still in the liner of these fast, high-flying jets that I will advise we look away from, because it does not conform with the kind of threats that we have. So if I am to be asked whether the J-17 should have been bought, with respect, I would say no. Because right now, I think only probably 3 or 4 air forces are using the J-17, including Pakistan and China that, that combined to make the... In fact, the Chinese have not bought the aircraft. The Chinese, for some reason, they didn't buy the aircraft. So apart from Pakistan, I think maybe Myanmar and one other or two. So to me, again, back to the analogy of the of our Toyota, why people are buying Toyota. The fact that that aircraft did not get acceptance, to me, as an analyst, tells me the fact that it has not been really proven in the battle, in the kind of things we're having here. I am not. And finally, the point of numbers. Here again, I will humbly ask the understanding of the political masters. When you are buying an aircraft or any piece of equipment, commonality of parts, economic sense, it doesn't make economic sense to buy 1 or 2 or 3 aircraft. It doesn't make sense. Because bad luck coming, you can easily lose 2 aircraft. That is the nature of the work. So when you buy 2 or 3, looking at the logistic support you want to bring to it, looking that sometimes when you bring a new aircraft, you have to open a maintenance line for that particular aircraft. I want us to move away from buying 2 or 3 aircraft. So I asked, why do we buy the J-7 that is not tested, that is a fast jet, that is not used by many air forces, and then we're buying only 3? It doesn't make sense to me. And that is my honest opinion about the J-17.
Well, I would like to thank you very much, Group Captain Sadeeq Garba Shehu, for joining us on This Day Live, the Sunday Talk Show, and for your forthrightness. Thank you very much indeed.